If you think horror movies today are scary, wait until you step back into the 1980s. This was the decade that didn't just make horror popular, it made it legendary. Practical effects, disturbing concepts, unforgettable villains, and that raw, gritty atmosphere that modern CGI just can't recreate. So today, we're diving into the 10 scariest horror movies of the 1980s, the films that traumatized a generation and still hold up decades later. Let's begin. First up, The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick and starring Jack Nicholson. Released in 1980, this psychological horror masterpiece follows a family isolated in the haunted Overlook Hotel. Nicholson's performance as Jack Torrance is absolutely chilling. The slow burn tension, the eerie silence, the unsettling visuals. This isn't just a horror movie, it's an experience. And that Here's Johnny scene, pure cinema history. Next is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, directed by Wes Craven. This film introduced the world to Freddy Krueger, played by Robert Englund. What made this one terrifying wasn't just Freddy's burned face, it was the concept. You can't fall asleep, because if you die in your dreams, you die in real life. That idea alone messed people up for years. Then we have The Thing from 1982, directed by John Carpenter and starring Kurt Russell. This sci-fi horror classic is about a shape-shifting alien in Antarctica that can perfectly imitate anyone. The paranoia is intense. The practical effects are disgusting in the best way possible. And the question of who can you trust makes it psychologically terrifying. Coming in next is The Exorcist 3 from 1990. Okay, technically right at the edge of the decade's influence, but spiritually very much part of that late 80s horror atmosphere. But if we stay strictly in the 80s, we absolutely have to talk about Poltergeist from 1982. Produced by Steven Spielberg and directed by Tobe Hooper, this movie made suburban homes terrifying. A young girl communicating with spirits through a television? The line "they're here" still gives chills. Let's talk about Hellraiser from 1987, created by Clive Barker. This wasn't your typical slasher. It was dark, disturbing, and deeply unsettling. Pinhead became one of horror's most iconic villains, but what really stands out is the twisted, almost philosophical approach to pain and pleasure. It's horror that crawls under your skin. Then there's The Evil Dead from 1981, directed by Sam Raimi and starring Bruce Campbell. Made on a low budget, this film proved creativity beats money. A group of friends in a cabin unleashing demonic forces. Simple premise, terrifying execution. The camera work was wild, the gore was shocking, and it became a cult legend. Next is The Fly from 1986, directed by David Cronenberg and starring Jeff Goldblum. This movie is body horror at its absolute peak. Watching Goldblum slowly transform into something horrifying is deeply disturbing, not just visually, but emotionally. It's tragic, disgusting, and unforgettable. We also have Child's Play from 1988. This is the movie that made dolls terrifying. Chucky, voiced by Brad Dourif, brought a new kind of horror, mixing dark humor with genuine fear. The idea that a child's toy could become a killer was nightmare fuel for an entire generation. Another absolute classic is Friday the 13th from 1980. While technically Jason became more iconic in later sequels, this original film set the stage for the slasher explosion of the 80s. Camp Crystal Lake, isolated teenagers, brutal kills. It created a formula that horror would follow for years. And finally, we can't forget The Blob from 1988, a remake of the 1958 film, but this version was darker, gorier, and far more terrifying. The special effects were shockingly intense for the time, and the film wasn't afraid to kill off characters you thought were safe. That unpredictability made it terrifying. So what made 80s horror so powerful? It was the practical effects, the risks, the creativity. There was a rawness to these films. Directors weren't afraid to shock audiences. And because technology was limited, they had to rely on atmosphere, tension, and imagination, which somehow made everything scarier. These movies didn't just rely on jump scares. They built dread. They created icons. Freddy Krueger,
Pinhead,
Chucky. They became part of pop culture forever. If you're a horror fan and you haven't explored 80s horror deeply, you're missing out on some of the most creative and influential films ever made. And if you have seen them, which one scared you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and want more horror rankings, classic movie breakdowns, and deep dives into cinema history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Share this with your horror-loving friends, and I'll see you in the next one if you dare.